Zach, can you hear me?
Yes, you got me?
Yep, we've got you. Let's give everybody about 10 or 15 seconds to pin your video, and then we'll get started. Okay, guys, go ahead.
Zach, what are your overall thoughts on the draft class?
Yeah, really happy how it shook out. You know, we had a chance to add 3 guys that we worked with at the Senior Bowl. You know, so that week really had a big effect on how we were able to approach things. Even though we only coached one of them, 2 of them we got to be familiar with over the course of that week, and so felt like we had intimate knowledge of those guys, and it really helped us. But just for where these guys were at, and we were able to grab them, we really think we helped ourselves, not just this weekend, but really over the last month and a half. We think we've put ourselves in a good position there, not only from starters that we've acquired, but players that are going to add depth value there. So really excited how the weekend is shaking out.
Took a lot of swings at linebacker.
Is there a player that was available that you thought would never be there when it was time to pick him?
I'd say a couple of them. You know, we had higher grades than where we ended up getting them in a lot of cases. And so, again, that's really good for us. It's just we feel like these guys are all good scheme fits for us. They're all going to compete for a lot of playing time. They all have the intangible qualities of things that we've identified that we need to continue to add to our organization. And so just really excited how it all shook out.
Took a lot of swings at linebacker, Zach. How much of that is just trying to get as much quantity as you can to then figure out what quality you've got?
Yeah, well, like I said, we did a ton of work on those guys over the course of this offseason. That's a real credit not only to Duke and his staff, but our coaching staff on that side of the ball and our special teams guys. And at the end of the day, these guys were there and felt like we had to grab them. Didn't necessarily go into the day saying we have to draft 3, but the way that it shook out, those guys are going to bring great value to us and have a good chance to get on the field. And so felt like it was too good to pass up.
Seemed like you took. It seemed like every guy you took almost was a captain, or a 3-year captain, or a coach's son. Or it seemed like you've got this vision, I think, for how you want the locker room to be, and it seemed like that kind of fit with a lot of your guys.
Yes, but it's a mixture of guys that have talent that fit our needs, and on top of that, have the high character and the intangibles and the work ethic and the consistency that we're looking to add as well. So it's not just, hey, let's take a nice guy who tries to do things the right way but can't play a lick. We identified the guys that had a combination of both and felt really good about adding all of them.
Zach, as far as free agency. Oh, you got it, Ben.
Go ahead, Elise.
Thank you, Zach. As far as free agency goes, is there still a need that is glaring to you that maybe you would like to add some guys in that position room?
No, not glaring. You know, that's the conversation actually I just left a second ago. We've had this conversation leading up to the draft on how many we'll add, and we're continuing it through right now, who those targets could potentially be, how they'll fit for us. But I wouldn't say that there's a glaring need. It's you typically try to add 1 or 2 at each position, but we feel good about the guys that we've identified. Hopefully they survive through the draft. Unfortunately for them, fortunately for us in some ways, but we'll see how that part finishes out.
Zach, the hand wringing in the Twitterverse is not addressing the offensive line more or earlier, but how much does this maybe affirm that you like what you guys have on the roster?
Yeah, and again, it goes back to it was more the guys that were sitting there at other positions, particularly at receiver and linebacker. We had really high opinions of those guys, and to just say that maybe you got a need somewhere and you're going to pass up the value that these guys bring, that'd be hard to do. And so we're not saying that the way that we played on offense last year, particularly up front, was acceptable, and that's the standard we want to set. We're just saying we had some guys that were too good to pass up. And so we still expect to have – we added Akeem Adeniji. We think very highly of him. He's got tackle, guard, flex. He played 4 years as a starter at tackle for Kansas. He was a captain. He's watched the Senior Bowl. He played guard the whole week and did a really nice job. And so he's got good flexibility. He's got a high football IQ. So we did address some depth there. And so he'll get in there and challenge and be able to mix it up for a role there.
Is that Markus Bailey? Was he the best on the board with the 7th round pick, the one you just took it out of Purdue?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Really excited about Markus.
What do you, thumbnail sketch on him? What's his big attribute?
Yeah. I mean, we again had a lot of value for him. And so for him to fall where he did, we could not pass him up. He great attitude, great work ethic. We thought he was a tremendous player for them. And so again, our linebacker coaches who did a lot of the work, and Lou did a lot of work, and our scouts all had him as a really highly rated player that fell to us in the 7th and just couldn't pass up on him.
So with ACL, is there a thought this could be a red shirt year, so to speak, for him?
We'll see how it goes. He is coming off the injury. Again, we'll just see how it shakes out here in a couple weeks as we get closer to training camp. But again, someone we felt like we wanted to grab hold of and just see how it shakes out with him.
First, just to be clear, you guys are done for the day. You're not going to manufacture another pick.
I wouldn't want to say never, but we anticipate ourselves getting ready for free agency at this point.
You guys obviously had, a lot of first impressions at the Senior Bowl. When you're going through the process, how do you make sure that you didn't just fall in love with one of the guys you saw early and that they really were truly one of the top guys throughout the whole process?
Right. I think what went into it was, okay, we come out of that week and we do a great job sitting down and saying what was the opinion that we formed over the course of the week. And then you spend the next 2 months verifying that opinion or finding information that says, we were duped one way or the other. And we just felt really good about the research we did on all those players that what we felt was verified. And there were some guys we probably liked during the Senior Bowl that as you went through the process, you maybe didn't like as much or the other way around. So again, we didn't write anybody off for going over that week. And we try not to just overly fall in love for being around a guy for a week. We want to make sure that the tape matched that, what people in their college program said about him matched that. And in these 3 cases, it all held up. Go ahead, Tyler. I see you trying to ask a question there.
So is it safe to say throughout this whole draft process that you drafted, except not from a position of need, but for the best player available?
It was really a balance of both. We did feel like, you don't like to say it before the draft, but you do want to get some linebackers that you can add to it. That's why we did so much work on them. But then the value just kept being there over and over. And so it was a combination of 2. We identified areas that we wanted to hit. We felt like the right players were there. And so we didn't overdraft at a position that we went into the draft targeting. And so, again, we feel very good about how it all ended up.
Did you receive any offers for Andy over the weekend?
We'll keep that information to ourselves right now.
What do you think that stands now, Zach? Is there, with the draft over, is he going to be a Bengal?
We'll keep addressing it this weekend. He certainly is right now, as he has been all along. And now that the draft's over, we'll let the dust settle and talk through it.
Were you close to making any trades of any kind from a draft perspective, whether it's trading up or trading down today?
How'd you start? I missed the beginning of that.
Were you close to making a trade up or down today in the draft?
There's a lot of phone calls that are made throughout the draft, and you always weigh them all. But ultimately, we felt like it was in our best interest to stay put. Either there were players there that we really liked that we felt like we needed to take, or the options that were presented we weren't in love with. So ultimately, but I think people would realize over the course of the draft, you field a lot of phone calls. Sometimes it's not worthy of considering. People are just throwing it out there, seeing if you'll grab it. But we felt good about just staying put.
Zach, before the draft started, though, that you would only make 7 picks. Would you be surprised by that?
That's a good question. I don't know. We certainly thought that there was movement was a possibility. But ultimately, really in every round, very glad at who we got at the top of those rounds and would have been surprised 3 days ago that those guys would have been available where they were. If you had told me that, I probably wouldn't have believed you. But we're happy that they were there.
Zach, can you clarify kind of the offseason schedule now? Because obviously it's still in flux. We know that part of it. I know May 11th, you talked about being able to do some stuff virtually. How often, at least to your knowledge at this point, can you do some stuff in kind of an organized team activity fashion?
Yep. So we start Monday with our veterans, and you were given a 4-week period to select 3 consecutive weeks that you could do work up until the May 15th, which is a Friday. And then on May 18th, they'll reevaluate where things stand, just nationwide with all the clubs. And so we chose to start April 27th instead of April 20th. That way we get 3 consecutive weeks that will butt up into that next decision that the league will make. So we'll start on Monday with our guys. We can only go 4 days a week, and we can only virtually meet with them for 2 hours during those days. So that starts Monday, which is exciting for all of us. The rookies cannot start until May 11th, the Rookie Success Program, and then they can't be integrated with the rest of our guys until May 11th. What can happen with them is we were given either this coming up weekend or the following weekend to meet for 3 consecutive days for 5 hours a day virtually with the players. And so now you can meet with them as a unit or a position group or individually, however you chose to spend that time. So again, we will likely move forward with that starting on Friday for us, and utilize those 3 days. And then as a position coach, you can then talk football one-on-one with those rookies up until that May 11th date. Again, you have to allow them time to finish classes if they need to. So you kind of got to get with them and make sure there's a good time for them. But other than the rookie minicamp, you cannot meet with them as a group. For instance, these 18 linebackers we just drafted, they won't all be able to meet collectively until May 11th outside of that rookie minicamp, but they can meet one-on-one with Coach Golden on time that fits their schedule.
Zach, it seems like a lot of the things in this draft.
Go ahead, Ben.
It seems like a lot of the things, not just in free agency, but also in the draft, have been really about establishing the culture you want. And it seems like that's something that's been going on since the end of last season. I mean, how important has that aspect of all of this been since the year ended?
I think it's really important because you're looking for guys that are going to be consistent day to day, and they're going to give their best effort, and they're also going to challenge those around them and not accept anything that's not somebody's best. And if we're not just trying to win games, we're trying to win championships. And so ultimately you got to be thinking long term with the people you had to have that championship mindset and are willing to work harder than any other team in the league. And so again, we just feel like we've added the right people, and not for 1 second did we compromise talent with the guys we've added. And again, that's a credit to I should have said this from the beginning. That's a credit to Duke Tobin and Mike Potts and Christian Sarkisian and Steve Radicevich and AJ and Bill Tobin. You know, that's a credit to those guys doing that work for the last 12 months, and then the coaches jumping in as well and providing their efforts as well. So again, sometimes you could say, oh, he's a high character guy, but you maybe haven't researched to find out if the talent's good enough. But I just think our staff did an excellent job finding the right combinations of guys that fit both things, the character and the talent, and are going to make us a better team.
I think you're also looking for an edge too, right? You're also kind of looking for a guy, like you said, maybe not looking for a nice guy, you're looking for, a guy with an edge a little bit.
Yeah, and so when you say guy with an edge, that's a guy who's not afraid to hold his teammates to a higher standard. I think that's really where that comes into play. They got a killer instinct when they're on the field and they're playing against an opponent. But at the same time, that's not where most of your time is spent. Most of your time is spent, in meeting rooms or on the practice field or doing individual stuff. And the only way we're ever going to get to where we are is if not just the coaches holding the players to a high standard, just the players holding players to a high standard. And I would say I thought we made a lot of progress with that as the season went on, and that was good to see. The next thing I saw was over the course of this draft, our current players and even the rookies we just selected reaching out to the new players. And that makes me really excited when I've got our current players texting me for phone numbers for guys that are maybe going to be competing with them for a job or adding to their side of the ball, or even a guy that's going to play across from them. And so that tells me we're in the right direction with the approach our players are taking.
How many players asked for Joe's number?
Questions here. We got to let Coach go.
How many players asked for Joe Burrow's number, Coach?
I'd say a good amount of players. It wasn't just Joe Burrow. It was all those guys. Sure. And so that was really cool to see. And I know Joe, this is the rookie class he's coming in with. He's been asking for those guys' phone numbers as we drafted them as well. And I know he's been in touch with the guys that we selected today.
How surprising
Down
was it to see
additional
a
draft.
team this
Go ahead,
deep?
James. Sorry.
How surprising was it after you draft Logan yesterday to see Akeem Davis Gaither sitting there for you in round 4?
Really exciting. Really fired up that he was there. He was a tremendous, I think Lou probably spoke earlier on him, but you go to the Senior Bowl, first one in the meeting, first one to do the work that was asked of him, was able to specifically make corrections over the course of the game. He played in space a lot there at Appalachian State, so playing in there against 12 personnel and 21 personnel in a game is probably a little bit new to him. And so you see him make a mistake earlier in the game, and before Al can even correct him, he's already just upset. He's in a good way. I got it. I know the correction I got to make. And then he went out there and made it. And so you just see right away that guy's going to be able to make the transition. He's going to be willing to put in the work. And certainly he's got a lot of the traits that we were looking for in our linebacker spots.
With 7 draft picks, not trading back, getting any additional draft collateral, does that free up budget money for additional college free agents?
Free up money. We budgeted pretty well for those guys, and the conversation I just left is making sure that we were on the same page. That's probably the biggest challenge virtually, is making sure everyone's on the same page with how we're going to spend that money. But I think everybody in our building has done a great job, and they're going through that right now to make sure we're all on the same page.
Hey guys, we have Lou Anarumo waiting to join us.
I thought I saw Lou down there. I thought it was between 2 Zoom calls there. He got all mixed up. Hey, Lou. All right, I'm out of here.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you, Coach. Okay, Lou, can you hear us?
Got you guys. You got me?
Yep, we sure do. Go ahead, guys.
Lou, did you think we'd be seeing you this much today?
Of course. I always think positive. Come on now. No, it's a good thing, just the way everything fell. And I think that, as I said before, I think the whole organization, Duke and the scouts and the coaches, everybody's been on the same page, and the ownership, it's really been, for as tough of a time as we're all going through, this was one of the smoother drafts, I have to be honest.
Lou, last year there were a lot of times you had to piecemeal things at the linebacker spot. How much better do you feel about maybe not having to do that this year, that you can legitimately do things the way you want to do them?
Yeah, I think it's going to help. We've got obviously now a bunch of new faces, guys that can do multiple things. So we're super excited about it, and looking forward to getting going, whatever that may be.
It's been talked about a few times, but without necessarily having the traditional OTAs, mini camps, and all that, to have the Senior Bowl where you were running basically OTAs, mini camps with these prospects, 60 prospects, you end up with 3 of them. One you coached and 2 that you coached against. How critically important was the Senior Bowl for this year?
Yeah, I go back. I said it in my first time we talked. The Senior Bowl was invaluable for us, and like you said, it was an extra 5 days a week with these guys that you got to know the players that we picked, and on both teams. That's the good news. It's not just our team; it's both teams. So I feel really good about it, and really good about where we're at with the guys that we got.
It seems like every pick was either a captain or a coach's son. Looked like you were trying to find obviously trying to find good players, but trying to find guys with a certain edge a little bit, trying to maybe flush out the room a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I just think from top down. Again, I said it earlier. Going back to free agency, what did we do? We brought playoff guys in. Guys that are on playoff teams, and now in the draft, we're adding as many captains and guys with leadership that you can add to any organization is gonna help. So that's not the only part of the equation, but it's certainly a big piece.
What about this linebacker Bailey that you guys just drafted? Obviously, had to be the best player left on the board. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, we had high grades on him, and I think he's there because for whatever reason, he's had obviously a little bit of an injury history, but we feel good about it. We feel good about his ability. He's done it all. He's played out in space as a displaced linebacker, covering receivers. He's covered tight ends. He's blitzed. I mean, he's really showed up. He's a football junkie. He's one of those guys that is a gym rat, always in there. You know, I know those coaches well there, and they got to kick the kid out of the building. So, you know, he can do all three positions. Again, another guy that brings flexibility and, you know, has a passion for the game. He's a good guy who wants to do well. So we're excited to add him to the room and to the team.
You know,
Was he a captain?
Lou, what concerns do you
Don't
have
know.
with Bailey coming off an ACL injury? I mean, what do you expect the timeline for him to kind of get things rolling again and kind of get acclimated?
Yeah, as far as I know, you know, I'm not, you know, where he's going to be okay, and we'll be all right. But again, the doctors will have final say on that. You know, I'm not 100% on the exact timeline, but I do know he's got a passing grade, or else we wouldn't have taken him.
Zach was kind of talking about how thorough the work you guys did on the linebacker class this year was. What was it different, more thorough there than maybe other spots at all, or that you've done in the past, or how was maybe it different, if at all?
I mean, maybe it you know, certainly probably, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, you're going to spend maybe some more time on an area of need. I just think that, again, for what has occurred this year with all of us, my face has been, mine and the coaches, our faces have been stuck in front of these computers and just had an unbelievable amount of time to watch guys. So, you know, not that we wouldn't have done that anyway, but, you know, it just seems to have played out that there's a little bit more that way. So we feel good about all of them, but yeah, we were honing in on this one for sure.
Anything else, guys? Okay, Lou, I think that's it. I can't thank you enough.
Guys, always a pleasure. See you soon, I hope.
Thanks,
Lou.
Coach.
Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou.
See you guys.
Later.
Okay, everyone, we'll try to have Markus Bailey here in just a moment.